All right, I think we're ready to roll.
You're listening to Words Like That with Cole Powell, a storyteller podcast.
All right, folks, I'm Cole Powell. This is Words Like That, and today I am super excited to be joined by a very special guest. We've been trying to get him on the show for a couple of years. Didn't think it was going to happen, but everything worked out. We got him on today. We are joined by award-winning singer-songwriter Sam Mooney. If you don't know who Sam is, here's a little bit of info on him. Hailing from Brookhaven, Mississippi, Sam began his music career as something of a pop fusion wonderkin, winning the Mid-South Talent Competition at age 17, and the next summer hitting number 10 on the iTunes US Singer-Songwriter chart with his debut EP, Somewhere in Between, at a time when charting that high was no easy feat. Now based in Nashville, Sam has continued to build an impressive career in pop fusion music, touring all over the country and boasting over 2 million Spotify streams. He's also one half of the Highland Rim, a special duo project Sam shares with his wife and fellow singer-songwriter Polly Mooney. Sam will have 2 new solo singles available for streaming and download by the time this episode is out, and he is here to tell us all about them. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cole. Dude, I'm so excited we're finally doing this, man.
Dude, me too. It's been a while. I'd given up hope. I was like, it's not going to happen. We were talking before we started rolling here. I was like, I got too much to do. You got too much to do. It's just never going to happen. And then you text me and we're like, hey, what about next Friday? So here we are. Everything worked out. And before we get into the songs, we're going to play the clips of the new material you got, and we're going to talk about songwriting process, production, whatever you want to talk about with those songs. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, you started out like all musicians do, local scene, and then you went statewide, and then you went regional, and now you're touring all over the country. You're based in Nashville, it's the music capital of the world. What has been the biggest difference going from the small pond to the big sea?
Dude, that's a great question. There's so many wonderful things about both ways of doing it. Because like you said, I was in Brookhaven for a long time, and then I was in Oxford for several years. And those were wonderful scenes to be a part of, really, really great. And to this day, there are things that I would tell an artist in those cities to appreciate about being in that situation. That said, Nashville's been a lot of fun. I am, like I said, small town kid. So for me, being in a big city is still somewhat of a new experience, and the novelty and the access to just some of the unique things you get when you're in a major city is still something I really, really enjoy. And at the same time, Nashville is a small world, and I would say one of the cool things is um, how many people I've gotten to know that I used to listen to before I ever moved up here. Even chances to play with those people in real time. And I do think that is part of why a person would move to a place like Nashville, is like to be on the ground, and you go to the gym and you see 3 touring artists on the treadmills next to you. And anyway, so there is this hub of musicians, and so you're just always around great people, and your network can expand so much. And one other thing about Nashville, it's very practical, but it's kind of interesting. Me, I'm a geography nerd. You look behind me, there's like a topographical map of Tennessee. This whole room, actually, the theme of it is places. I'll spare you the tour, but like all my art has to do with places I love. Music and places, I guess. But anyway, one interesting thing about Nashville, though, is it is within like 600 miles driving distance from like over 50% of the country's population. So it's an incredible place to tour from, just logistically, because so many metropolitan areas are at your fingertips. It's like even cities in the Midwest that sound far really aren't, like Indianapolis or Louisville, Kentucky, or Cincinnati. So it's funny. I'll play in Chicago next month, and to me that sounds so far away. and it's the same distance as my hometown is from here. They're both 7 hours away. That also speaks to what long states Mississippi and Tennessee are. But it's a funny thought. So all that to say, being up here has been fun, and it's definitely been inspiring. If you're a small market musician, listening, could tell you 20 things that rock about that there you can appreciate. But Nashville made good sense for me at the juncture that I was at, and I've really, really liked it.
Excellent, excellent, dude. Yeah, you've mentioned this before to me. We've talked, not on camera or anything, just personally about the proximity of Nashville to all these places, and I was blown away. But you're totally right. It's so close to so many different places, and like you're going to Chicago, and that's the same distance as it is to get back here. It's like that's crazy.
Crazy.
So,
And for that reason, artists who live here and tour, they really only have to leave for more than weekend runs if they go to the West Coast. It's like basically everything on the eastern half of the country and even middle America can be done by, leaving Thursday, come back Sunday. And so it's like the only time people have to get out for 2 weeks is if they're going to play, California and Seattle and all that. So, which, I think as the whole world is kind of trying to figure out healthier, more affordable ways to live, and especially for, mental health and stuff, I think it's like a lot of artists realize, okay, having a rhythm of like weekend run, weekend warrior touring actually works pretty darn well. So Nashville's a great place to do that.
Right, absolutely. So let me ask you this: is there any drawback to having moved from?
Yeah. Dude, that's a great question. I would say one thing, and there's so much talent everywhere. Mississippi produces crazy amounts of talent. But naturally, as a hub for musicians, Nashville, like per capita, has a crazy amount of talent. And so I would say one of the drawbacks is if you're in a non-music city, you just have more interactions with people where they're amazed that you could do that. You know what I mean? Because we all, as musicians, what we can do is so unique and it's amazing. And to be able to play an instrument well or write a beautiful song or sing well, that's a rare skill that not everyone has. And if you're not in a music hub, you kind of constantly encounter people's reaction with that. Whereas in Nashville, there's some sense of like, well, I know 20 amazing musicians, so it's kind of funny, like you're kind of looking at the world through a distorted lens, and you can kind of forget until you leave town how special your skill set is, because there's just so many more people who do exactly what you do, if that makes sense. So I do think if you're in a small town, the you might get a little more wind in your sails from people around you just because there's less people doing what you do.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. And I never thought about that. I was curious what your answer to that question was going to be.
Yeah.
And that was so interesting but you're absolutely right. And like that's one of the reasons that I never even considered going to Nashville, because it's like,
Totally.
I'm pretty comfortable with being like the guy, like in Jayess, the Jayess guy,
Yes,
because
totally.
it's me and Kyle Graves, like we're
Totally.
we're it, and he's in pedal now, so it's like so that's just me. So yeah, that's a great question. Love that, man. Love it, man. All right, so let's transition to this new material. So you released 2 EPs. One full-length solo album. I think Time Bomb was technically a full-length album because you had those nice interludes in there that were just
thank
phenomenal.
you. Yes.
Yeah, how much I love those. And then you had a full-length album with you and your wife's project, the Highland Rim. You've released a few singles. And your music, I feel like it crosses genre barriers. I referred to it as pop fusion in my intro.
love that.
Would you say that was a fair assessment?
Dude, that's cool. I had not heard anyone describe it that way, but I think that's really, really cool. I like that. I might steal that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, free of charge, my friend. So if you want to give me credit for it, that's nothing. But anyway, but Yeah, I feel like all of your music, no matter what style you touch on, you do a lot of jazz, which these two singles we're going to listen to the clips of here are heavily jazz-based tracks, which I love. You know, that's my favorite side of your music.
Oh.
And you've done blues. You've had some country leanings. I've heard some folk leanings in your stuff, but I feel like the genre thread that runs through all of your music is pop. Like everything has a pop base to it. I don't mean this kind of bass. I mean like a foundation, a pop foundation to it. Whereas, like I would say, my music, I would say rock kind of runs through everything. There's all, even if I do folk, it's folk rock. For you, I feel like that pop music is your thing. So these next two tracks that I already mentioned here, these are kind of getting back into a style you've done before. You did a lot of this on your first record, Somewhere in Between. You had a lot of jazz, pop, rock stylings. And these two tracks are like right there. Like they sound like they could have been on that record, but with more mature vocals from you because you're cutting these now much older than you were then.
Yes.
And I also feel like from a production standpoint, because now you're in Nashville produced them, they are a more modern, slickly polished tracks than what you got on Somewhere in Between record. Not that the Somewhere in Between record wasn't great, because it was, you know how much
Totally.
So, but I tell you what, let's go. Do you want to tee these up or just jump right into the clips?
Dude, gosh, that's a great question. No, this is also fun. I say I like you leading the questioning. So I say let's do the clips and then whatever jumps to mind.
Let's do it.
This
All right,
is
so I'll play the clips back to back here, and then we can talk about them both together at the same time, compare and contrast, talk about how they complement each other. All right, let's do it. So this first one, this is Once in a While. And Sam, I don't know how well this is going to sound to you or how much you're going to be able to hear this, but I assure you, when our audience is listening to this, they're going to be able to hear it really well. So,
cool, yeah.
So here we go.
Is this just the way life's gonna feel for me always? Is it up to me if things are ever gonna change? It's always out of reach, some days an inch, some days a mile. Why don't I feel peace once in a while?
Classic Sam Mooney keys work there. All right, so we'll cut it right there.
Sweet.
All right, so that was Once in a While, and you're packaging these kind of, we'll talk about that after I play the second clip. Okay, let's
Love it.
This is the second clip, and this is Something Different. Let's go.
I'm fascinated by the things that she says. She's a genius, it don't go to her head. And did I mention how good she looks in red? There's something different about that girl. Out of all the people in the world, I can't believe that you're my girl. And I'll always be true, 'cause I only want you.
Love that pulse over there, man. Wait.
Oh, thank you.
Keys. And I played a little bit longer clip on that one because I really wanted that little instrumental break there with the
Thank
keys.
you. Yeah, I was really happy with that solo.
Yeah, dude, your solos. You know, I've always loved your keys work. And
thank you.
And actually, for those listening, some of you may have actually heard Sam's keys on some of my tracks.
Yes.
Because he did the keys work for the Unfiltered record that I have remade and remixed like 2 or 3 times by now. So if you've heard any of the versions of those songs, you've heard Sam's keys. And Sam, you have a very particular piano style. And I feel like I can just hear, I was like, that's the Sam Mooney keys right there. And
really?
yeah,
oh, thank
like,
you.
and I don't hear that style with anybody else. Like, there's nobody I've ever heard that I thought, man, that sounds just like Sam Mooney play it. No,
Really? Thank
no,
you, man.
I've
That means a
never-
lot.
It do, and I love having that sound on my own tracks. I've got Sam Mooney
Thank you.
keys on my tracks. It's so great. So those two tracks, we just played a clip. If you want to go check them out, by the time this drops, they should be available everywhere, streaming, download. Go check them out. It's Once in a While and Something Different. And you are packaging these as like an old school A-side, B-side single, which know I am all over. I love that style. That's how I think about releases. That's how I think about music. We talk about this whenever we set up the interview. Whenever I release the Unfiltered record, that's how it's A-side, B-side, side one, side two.
Totally.
And I really can't structure a release any other way.
Really?
No, like I can't do just like a straight CD or playlist track order. Like that doesn't compute for me. It has to be structured like an album. Because I necessarily grew up on vinyl because that was before my time and before it came back to the forefront. But I grew up on cassette that still was side A and side B. So that's where my mind goes. And you're doing the same thing here. I think it's brilliant, and I think these two. I think these two complement each other perfectly. They're both jazz-based, like we talked about earlier. But one, I think, leans more into a modern pop vibe of jazz. That's Once in a While. That's the A side of the single, if you will. And then the second track we played, Something Different, the B side, that's more traditional jazz. And I said this to you when we were setting up the interview. This is like a classic love song jazz standard that Frank Sinatra could have sung in 1947.
Dude, that's such a great compliment, man. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
jazz is the number one thing I listen to just as a fan of music. I like it's not even so much like my favorite artist of all time is Stevie Wonder, and he's jazzy, but it's not jazz. But jazz is such a part of like it's the best easy listening music, in my opinion. So it's like, it's what I put on when I'm doing chores, and it's what I'm, anytime I want to relax, but still be listening to music. It's the instrumental jazz, the primary thing I listen to when I'm working, writing emails. And so I'm constantly absorbing it. And even though, pop is certainly a big part of my, the gumbo of my music. Jazz
it's the roux,
always,
right? The gumbo roux. This is pop. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, jazz always tends to sneak in. And these songs particularly are heavy on that influence.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you're talking about that, how much you listen to it. That explains why it gets so infused in that, because you're just like absorbing it by osmosis all the time.
All the time.
And it just naturally comes out in your stuff. And, I love it. So these two tracks, let's talk about them lyrically, thematically here. The second track, I'll start with the second track first, Something Different. This is very much in, I feel like, the lyrical style with most of your music, which you started writing, like most of us do, when you were really young, you were a teenager.
Yes.
And what's the thing that is most on the minds of teenagers? Romance, right? Romance.
Yes.
Relationships, right? So I feel like most of us, when we start writing songs, we start writing that early, and we're focused on that topic, romantic relationships. And even into young adulthood, and we're writing love songs, we're writing breakup songs, we're writing unrequited love songs. And that most of your songs have kind of played in that theme. Plus, that's also the kind of music we're listening to, right? That's that's the music that's made for that demographic, those teen young adults. So, and that's what you played into, and you did it so well. Thank you. Even the songs that didn't deal with relationships, like Somewhere Between, the title track from your first record, Find My Way, title track from your second record, like those weren't romantic songs, but they were still really speaking to a young demographic. I feel like, and it was written by a young person. You could tell that, like you're in a transitional phase, and you're So I still get that with this second track, Something Different. The other track, the A side, Once in a While, I feel like this is in your songwriting. This is like a graduation track for you.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah. I feel like, and you can correct me if you don't think this is a fair assessment, I feel like this is the first song in your catalog that really it's an adult song. And I don't mean like explicit. I mean that it's written by an adult. It's playing to adults because you're talking about stuff. You're talking about the refrain is, why can't I have peace once in a while? Right? That's the refrain. Okay. That is such a grown up thing. Like
Yes.
you can tell that you as a person you've now experienced that. You're out of that transitional phase and you're experiencing things, adulting
Yeah.
things, and it's starting to come through in your music. Would you say it's a fair assessment?
I think that's a very, very fair assessment, and it's actually fun. We could camp out here for a minute because there's a lot I could say about that shift in my writing. Several thoughts. I would say, yeah, I think you're spot on. I think like when you're 18, most of your songs are gonna have something to do with love, either love that you feel, love that you're trying to find, love gone wrong, and then, if you're lucky enough to be like us and find wonderful people to spend your life with, that stuff gets kind of settled over time and you still write your love songs, but there's a lot less angst in that equation, and your thoughts begin to, if you're doing life right, I think the 20s, that stuff kind of locks in, and you then are able to begin growing up a lot more as examining your internal world, learning a lot about what motivates you, what you're scared of, what brings you joy. And I think my 20s were a lot of homework on that front, really getting to know myself. And it definitely came out in the writing. And I think another thing is the an interesting kind of midway point between those kind of things was the Highland Rim record's kind of interesting because a lot of those songs are love songs, but they're kind of like a love song and this subtopic that we're exploring love through. So just to illustrate a few songs for anybody listening that's heard that record, like there's a song called Always Be Round, which is very much a love song, but it's also a love song that's clearly happening amidst some sort of hardship. It's like a unconditional love, but we're going through it today. You know what I mean? There's a song called All the Things I Understand Now, which is this, again, it's a love song, but the verses really flesh out like falling in love has expanded my understanding of the world, and there's so much that has changed about it's like reflecting on how much love has changed you. Another one that jumps out is yeah, there's a song called like Everything Is Better When You're Here, which is a long distance love song. So that record was kind of the stepping stone between those earlier songs and now. And so yeah, I think it's been fun to yeah, I do think I write more introspectively now. And I did that, like you said, in songs or two here or there on each record. But it was not the overarching theme. And I guess spoiler alert, the crop of songs I have now is overwhelmingly that stuff. It's overwhelmingly the introspective stuff. And I had an epiphany the other day because I was describing this set of songs to someone, and I described it as the most honest work I've done. And as soon as the words left my mouth, I was like, why does that not feel right? It's because it's like you're always trying to write honestly as an artist. You're always channeling the truth in some way. There's, obviously songs where we write stories or embellish or whatever, but like generally we're always pulling from an honest place as we write. And the word I was actually looking for that I now know and will use to describe these songs, I think it's my most vulnerable work. There's I've always written honestly, but I think not all honesty is equally vulnerable. And I think these are really vulnerable songs. I think like once you hit 30, like I just did, you get a little more comfortable asking open-ended questions like, why don't I feel peace once in a while? And you also get more comfortable at not feeling like you are um responsible for giving every possible piece of information to the listener. Like, I think an older version of me would have maybe thought like, well, if I say, why don't I feel peace once in a while? Well, people think I'm like literally always sad. It's like, well, no, obviously not. Like,
People
but
contact you, ask you if you're okay. Do you need to call? Do you need to call a certain hotline? You know, that kind of thing.
yes,
It's like no.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's like, I like sure sometimes I do feel peace, but the song is about the day where you feel like that. You know, you are stuck in traffic. You had a rotten day at work. Your head is in knots, and that's the day you need that song. And so I'm writing for that person at that moment. But I think there was a time, and I know this is such a long answer, but I do think again, I think there's a worthwhile.
Well, you've already
pit
answered my
stop.
next question, so keep going.
Yeah. Oh, well, what was the next?
I was going to
question?
ask you, was this the kind of material you were going to be doing for the next for your next set of songs? So
Okay,
yeah,
love
yeah,
it. Love
keep
it.
going.
So
Yeah.
we're already in there. So anyway, and I think like, you know, as a believer, I think I wrestle with like, what does making redemptive art mean? I'd actually be curious when I finish this train of thought to hear how you think about that. Because your latest record, you know, has its, I mean, you're creating from a slightly different place. I don't want to spoil any reveals, but you know, there's a lot of stuff happening with your record. But you know, you write some really honest, deep stuff in that,
Well,
and I
thank you. I appreciate that, man.
I
I
think,
try.
yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's really, really good. And so you know, I've wrestled with well, to write make redemptive art. Does that mean that if verse 1 and 2 are sad, then verse 3 needs to have the, you know, redemptive? You know, do we need to hand that to the listener in a bridge? And I think what I realized is the answer is no. Like, we just need to create great art that meets people where they are. I think my records are all redemptive. I think like even Time Bomb ends with Holy Water, which is this kind of coming back to center. Um, and this record actually has a song, I think it's going to end up on it, called Faithful, that's kind of talking about, all right, I'm in a storm right now, but I'm going to power through and trust in the Lord despite that. And anyway, so all that to say, I think what I've realized is I think all my records have a redemptive arc, but I think I'm more comfortable now releasing songs that are more open-ended and more, again, I think as an adult, you just I think that's part of why it's a grown-up song is it's a little more comfortable sitting in that sadness and being honest about it, because there are those days where we do feel, you know, that way. So yeah, and then the last thing I'll say to illustrate that, there's a line in Go Easy, actually the first single from this project that came out in the fall. The bridge of that song, it's like incredibly vulnerable. There's something about how I deliver it in the thought that is like kind of funny. Like there's an element of humor, but it's also kind of brutally honest. The bridge is, I repeat myself because I'm so scared of being misunderstood. I don't ask for help even when I probably should. I go to the gym 3 times a week because I'm scared of feeling small. Sometimes I don't say what I think because I want to please them all. And it's this jazzy, fun song, but it's like in a ballad.
Great lyrics, man. Great,
Dude,
great
thank
stuff.
you.
Great
In
stuff.
a ballad, that would be like heart-wrenching kind of stuff. You know, even saying like, gosh, I had this self-perception that's distorted and you know, and so I don't think I could have written those lyrics years ago, but I couldn't have shared them, I think. And so but again, I think that honesty is real, and I think like when I think of the artists I love, they don't hold me punches in terms of being real about how the world feels some days. So that is a very long answer to the writing of this project. But yeah, I think it'll be the most vulnerable group of songs ever, and I think that'll pay dividends. I'm excited about it.
Dude, I am too. I'm stoked. I can't wait to hear
Thank
this record. But yeah, you mentioned the Highland Rim record. And I should have put that in that timeline if I was talking about
Oh,
your
you're good.
development.
Yeah, no worries.
Because you're right. And I finally got to sit down and listen to that record, by the way. I know the last time we had talked back at Christmas, I had not yet done that because I had not had the time or had not made the time to sit down and listen to it.
Totally.
Because you know I like to sit down and listen to a record all the way through if I can.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, because that's how it's meant to be, right? You're making an album. If you made an album, you should be making the album for it to stand as a work of art, as an album.
Yes,
that's how the artist intended. So So anyway, yeah,
Totally.
and in particular, I see what song was it? You just said it's the next. It's the
Always Be
next.
Around.
No, it's the next to
All
last
the Things I
track.
Understand Now.
Yes, that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
All things I understand now. That. Whenever I listen to that, I was like, yeah, this is still a love song, but it's a more mature love song. And I feel like exactly what you were talking about, getting to this point where you are in your music. And I would say
Totally.
this song in particular, once in a while, I would say you are speaking to real life. You're speaking to real humanity. You're speaking to situations that most of us adults have gone through, are going through, at least feel occasionally. And that's why it resonates so much. And
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to resonate with your audience. I think people are going to love this. And if not,
Thank you.
if not, it's going to be a crying shame because it's a phenomenal song. Absolutely great. Cannot wait to hear the rest of this record. So, speaking of the Highland Rim,
Yeah.
so tell us about that project. And it was that I know we got that album that we just talked about. Was that a one-off, or are you gonna produce some more singles or another album, or are you on
Yeah.
hiatus? You plan on maybe touring a little bit? Is the Highland Rim? What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that project is, and you know this as an artist, it's like there's an on ramp to building out a project. If you're gonna do it right, that takes a while, and we've done that with the Highland Rim, and it's ready to go. And it's like something that we can jump into at any moment that we feel inspired to do it. But music's an interesting mix of like discipline. Well, I should say music business is an interesting mix of discipline and art. It's like doing what you are inspired to do, but also having see through on things that you started and all that. So where I'm going with this thought is you do have to at moments chase where the inspiration's going. And so we put out the record and are so proud of it. Had an amazing release show in Nashville. It's one of my favorite, achievements of my career to put out a full length with my wife. But as far as right now, I think our inspiration right now, Polly has an amazing kids music project called Polymoon. So all that to say, that's her biggest focus at the moment. And then I have this group of songs I've been sitting on because, I was still writing all that time while making the Highland Rim. And
And it
because the
took
Highland
y'all a
Rim's
couple of years to make that record, right?
it did,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It was a slow burn because it's a full length and, we were doing so many things while making it in our lives. So anyway, all that to say, I had this crop of songs that is the stuff I'm now beginning to release that piled up during that time. And I have for me, I'm really anxious to begin sharing those and get out there with that. So the fun thing with the Highland Rim though now is it's at this place where it's like I say, we've built out that world and we could jump into it whenever we want. So like there was a show last summer. I had a show in Atlanta and it was gonna be just me, but Polly was free, and so she came down with me. I did the first few songs solo, and then I was like I brought her up the rest of the night, and we played stuff together, and, like, it was like an impromptu Highland Rim feature. So, if we write a song next month that we're, like, stoked on and can't wait to get out in the world, we'll put it out this summer or something. But right now, our main focuses are Polly Noon for her and, this solo batch for me. So it's been fun, and, but we're so proud of that project and had a blast making it, but like I said, you do have to follow your artistic compass, and there are moments you have to say, "I gotta move towards what's inspiring me right now," and for us, and for me even, it's funny to me, the through line in all my music is the soul-based genres. I would call it soul music in all its forms. So, and what I would loosely define that as like jazz, blues, gospel, and like R&B. And the Highland Rim actually has some pretty banging moments. There's definitely moments that have the jazz, like Everything Is Better When You Hear super jazzy. Even If I Tried and Into You, very jazz, soul vibes. I mean, Santa Monica is like one of the funkiest moments in my whole discography. It's not to say that that's like a country record or something, but it has a much more guitar-driven acoustic vibe overall. And so there were certain songs I wrote in the last few years that only made sense on my next solo record. And so, um, this group of songs, I just, this is the best vehicle to get them out, is my solo career. So all that to say, yeah, that's a great question. And that's kind of where it is now. But that project, is something we'll tap back into many times, I think, over the years to come. And also those songs, I think we'll find their way into set lists the rest of my career, whether I'm playing solo that night or with Polly. I played shows last year where Polly couldn't make it, but I still played, a few of those tunes. Because they are, there's some really, really sweet ones. So, yeah, anyway, that's kind of the update on that one.
Nice, guys. And also,
Yeah.
for those listed, go check out Polly Mooney's music and her children's project, Polly Moon. She has some solo stuff under Polly Mooney, and then the children's music project under Polly Moon. She's also a phenomenal talent. Go check her out.
Is.
Yeah. But Sam, you're a little prejudiced here. I'm trying to be an objective observer, and I'm saying it's good. You don't have to go there. We know you're prejudiced there. No, seriously. But yeah, y'all go check that out. So I think one final thing here before we wrap up. I don't think I told you this. You may have seen, I don't know. I recently launched a new YouTube channel podcast dedicated to film.
Oh, awesome.
Film Nerd by Night is the title of it.
Love that.
And I'm a big movie guy.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people I don't think know about you is you're something of a Star Wars nerd.
I love some Star Wars.
Okay,
yes.
so I'm going to give you a little bit of an opportunity to talk about Star Wars. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Rank episodes 1 through 9, worst to best. Go.
Dude. All right. I'm going to verbal process here. This is a fun question. I'll say this. I rewatched the prequel trilogy probably like during COVID or something. They're not as bad as people say they are. They have their moments, but like Revenge of the Sith is a solid movie. And I mean, Phantom Menace is pretty rough at moments, as is Attack of the Clones, but they're not I don't know. They had a little more heart than there's still something really sincere about it. I think because like George Lucas's hands were still in it. And I like sincerity and intent. Okay. So I'd say I'm not saying they're in the top, half, but they're not 7, 8, 9 in the order. Okay. Did you say rank worst to best?
Worst to
Okay.
best.
I think Attack of the Clones might be the worst. I think up a spot from that, probably Phantom Menace or Last Jedi. Those are probably interchangeable at 7 and 8. I think 6 is probably slot 6. I think is Rise of Skywalker, the last of the new. I didn't love a lot of that. So then we get into the decent stuff. Let's go. Let's see. Or no, this would be slot 5, I think. Okay, yeah. Right,
slot 5. That's correct. Slot 5.
Let's go. Revenge of the Sith at 5th. That's really close with Force Awakens. I think those are 4 and 5. And then I think 3, obviously 1, 2, 3 is the original trilogy. I think Empire Strikes Back is probably the best movie. A New Hope 2nd, 3rd place, Return of the Jedi. There we go. But if we were to throw Rogue One in there, that's like that might be like number 3. And that wasn't the question, but I would put that one pretty dang high.
Where would you rank Solo?
Ooh, I thought Solo was pretty good.
I did too.
Yeah.
I like Solo.
I guess it was more of a box office flop than like or maybe it wasn't even a flop. A box office, it wasn't a smash.
Yeah, right.
Um,
It was
but
still, Ron Howard made the point. He was like, it's my highest gross movie of all time.
that's hilarious.
Right. One of the most
Yeah.
acclaimed directors of the last half of the 20th century. That was his biggest.
Yeah,
And people were saying, oh, it's a flop. It's like, not for me, it wasn't.
that's hilarious. Yeah, Solo would be upper middle of the fat pack, I think.
I agree.
I like Star Wars best in its like let's play with stuff right around the time frame of the original trilogy but not really impacting the main characters. I mean, Solo is about Han Solo, I guess. But that's why like Mandalorian was so fun. It's like, oh man, yeah, what's the galaxy like a few years after Return of the Jedi, or the I liked the Obi-Wan miniseries pretty good. So that's my favorite thing. I like it when they're experimenting in that stuff. But it's like I don't really need to know what happens to Luke Skywalker 30 years down the line after Return of the Jedi. I found out, but
In
didn't.
theory, we would think we would like that, but then
Yeah.
whenever it actually happens, it's like, never mind. I wish we did not know that.
I liked the Star Wars 7, 8, 9 I had in my head.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the expanded universe in the novels and the comics and all that stuff, that already like had its own mythology
That's right. Yeah.
that Disney threw in the trash.
Hilarious.
So the super hardcore fans, I never really got deep into that stuff, a little bit, but not much. But the super hardcore fans that had followed all the expanded universe stuff, they
Yeah.
were really ticked off that Disney didn't just follow the expanded universe stuff and adapt those to screen. And
Interesting.
from what I know about the expanded universe, they're probably right. Like Disney probably should have just adapted those instead of doing their own thing.
Totally.
Even though I love when The Force Awakens came out. I mean, me and you actually were in
we
the
were
same
stoked.
screening. You had seen it. You had seen it like already at midnight the night before or something, and then you were at the opening day, the second screening. I was there, and I was just like, I was blown away. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. From an episode 6 sequel, Return of the Jedi sequel. It's perfect to teed everything up. And then Last Jedi came out.
I know.
And it was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Never mind. Just and it actually kind of ruined The Force Awakens a little bit. It kind of undercut what they had set up.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then when J.J. Abrams came back and basically tried to make up for The Last Jedi, he ended up not only basically undoing The Last Jedi, but he undid what he had done in The Force Awakens too. So you end up one of my favorite critic quotes, and I don't remember who the critic was that said this, but it was, I've never seen a trilogy whose films actively hate each other as much as these three. And I was like,
That's hilarious.
That's a great description. That's a great description.
That is spot on. That's so funny.
It was perfect. But you make a good point about the prequels. You said earlier you'd rewatched them, and you said you think they're as bad as people said. And I think we've actually talked about this, privately, that we've reached the point where the prequels are actually, there's a generation of kids who grew up like the Gen Z, the Zoomers. They grew up with the prequels. Like, there are Zoomers out there who have only seen the prequels. Like the actor Tom Holland that plays the new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's only, last I knew, it's all an interview, he had only ever seen the prequels.
That's hilarious.
And that's like a whole generation of kids. They grew up with that, just like we grew up with the original trilogy, and they just think they're great. They think the prequel trilogy is great. But what's funny is, you were probably the same way. When those movies were coming out, I, as a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, also thought they were great. Like, I was, whenever I saw them at their time of release, I was a kid, I was like, yeah, these are so good. Phantom Menace, I came out of Phantom Menace going like, man, I don't know. I think that may be the best Star Wars ever. And what's funny is, I don't know if you've ever seen this footage, but there is footage out there of these news crews interviewing people coming out of the original screenings of the Phantom Menace.
Really?
And it's almost universal, like, that was the most mind-blowing movie I've ever saw.
Really?
George Lucas.
Hilarious.
Shaquille O'Neal comes out of a screening, and they're like, so what did you think about the movie, Shay? He's like, oh man, that was the best Star Wars. It's crazy. And then over time, as we grew up and we rewatched them, it was kind of like, oh, I mean, this not as good as we thought when it was a kid. But there are some good moments in the prequel trilogy.
So,
Darth
no, I know
Maul,
what you mean. Yeah,
yeah.
you do have to wonder if there's at least some element, of kind of cultural groupthink.
It
of,
is.
like-
I think there. I
Yeah.
think there was. I think this is kind of an internet. Like the internet has
Mhm.
affected the perception a lot.
Totally.
I think
Yeah.
it affected the perception of the ultra hate that the prequels got,
Mhm.
but I also think it is now affecting the rehabilitation of the prequels. Like some people are putting them on a pedestal, and it's like the answer is actually somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yep.
but anyway, but you made a great point about the prequels, that there's some good stuff in there. I think about Phantom Menace. I know you had Attack of the Clones. I still think like Attack of the Clones is actually better than the Phantom Menace overall. But the Phantom Menace, Darth Maul,
Oh, such a great
and
such
the
a
lights,
great bad guy.
Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul,
Yeah.
young Obi-Wan, those three characters are great. And then the duel
Yes.
with the Duel of the Fates
Ah,
score.
amazing.
Dun, 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 dun. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the greatest scores of all time, not just in Star Wars,
Legendary.
but of all time. So even
Yeah.
like the worst of the prequels has some moments, has some really good
Yes.
moments in there. And
That's
I don't know,
exactly
I
right.
can't say that about at least two of the sequels.
Yeah.
So it's like, But anyway, okay, so there you have it, folks. That is the definitive ranking. Sam
There
Mooney
it
ranked
is.
these things. That's it. You don't ever, nobody ever has to make another ranking video again for Star Wars. Nobody ever has to watch another ranking video of Star
The
Wars. Sam Mooney.
conversations, it's done.
It's done. It's
Yeah.
done. So where do you stand now on the franchise as it is? I know you said you really like the Obi-Wan series. That's whenever I quit watching Obi-Wan. There was just too much for me. It was just the suspension of disbelief required. And I'm also a stickler for continuity, which is why I used to get really mad at George Lucas, because he was not. Even with the original trilogy, there's stuff in the original trilogy that actually contradicts itself. That people,
Really? Yeah.
like nobody really talks about it, but it's there. It's there. I could write a
That's
book on it.
funny. Yeah.
But anyway, and what really burned me up about Obi-Wan the most is Revenge of the Sith teed up Obi-Wan to be left in the desert,
That's right.
and it made perfect sense with
Yes.
his appearance in A New Hope, which was originally not called A New Hope. It was just called Star Wars. It was first released. But so everything was perfect. Everything really matched well. The last time he had seen Anakin was when he had sliced him up on Mustafar, and his body got okay. Which made the line perfect that Vader says in the original Star Wars. He says, "When we last met, I was but the learner. Now I am the master." And then Obi-Wan says, "Only a master of evil, Darth." Like that, what George did for the Revenge of the Sith scene made that whole exchange work perfectly.
Gosh, that's so true.
The Obi-Wan series says, "Oh no, actually, Obi-Wan's going to be in the desert for like 10 years, and he's lost his mojo, and he goes and he actually fights Vader not one more time, but twice."
Yeah.
In this random solo adventure off, and then defeats him again.
Yes.
Then goes back to Tatooine, and his character arc is exactly where it was at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
That's so true. That's so true.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm out. I haven't watched any since then. I haven't even seen the third season of Mandalorian.
I haven't either.
Yeah. Okay. So
It got to be too much for me to keep up with.
Yeah.
And the other thing is going to your thing of like, you have this ending, and then for the sake of the show, we build out these plot lines that kind of dilute the endings of other things. I began to feel that way a little bit about The Mandalorian, in the sense of like, remember in the first episode, there was this part where they had these like, there were these stormtroopers, and they were like, their uniforms were like battered and they were covered in dust. And it was cool, this idea of like, oh wow, like the Empire fell, but there would still be these stragglers out about. But as it goes on, it's like, there's still generals and ships and like units, and it's like they seem like a pretty well organized empire still, but it's supposed to be like, they had a celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi because it was over. And so it's kind of like for the sake of the show, they like created all this, plot line around, this stuff. And it's like, kind of feels like Return of the Jedi didn't happen now because it seems like there's a lot of stormtroopers and Imperial generals and stuff. So yeah, it is funny. That is, I agree. Those kind of things added up over time with all the new stuff. And also, I think like the reason we were all stoked about Star Wars 7 is that we waited, 20 years for it, or I guess it was only like 10 years between those sequels, but 20 something since Return of the Jedi. And, it is an element of less is more. It's like,
Actually, it was like
yeah.
it was like 40 from between Return of the
Gosh.
Jedi. Yeah, like
That's
40,
right, 'cause,
42,
yeah.
83
Yeah.
to 2015.
Wow. So yeah, that was,
Or-
gosh, that's longer than I thought.
Let's see, 32. Yeah, 32.
Yeah, so you'd
32.
waited 32 years for the
Right.
story.
Yeah.
And it's like Star Wars thrived on scarcity, and it's like because every new piece of like, wow, this universe that's so nostalgic to us, we get to glimpse into it again. And again, I think they just put out too much that it's not special anymore, I suppose.
I agree. Same thing with Marvel. I'm a big Marvel guy.
Totally.
And they've done the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And it's so funny you mentioned that about the scarcity of Star Wars. It was something special when something came out. I remember when I was a kid, they didn't make any action figures, Star Wars action figures, between like 1984 and 1995.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had my brothers and my cousins, and I was just like, I loved them. I loved playing with action figures. And whenever the first new line of figures came out in 1995, I remember being in Walmart, and let's see, I was 6.5, and I was in there with my dad, and I walk into Walmart, we go down the toy aisle, and there is a new line of Star Wars figures, and they have R2-D2s. I didn't have R2-D2 from the original set,
Awesome.
and I was like, Daddy, it's R2, can I get R2? He's like, yeah, let's get. I'm like, yes. It was like such a big deal because there had been none manufactured in 11 years. Now it's like there's a new line every week.
That's
Isn't that right?
hilarious.
Like
Yeah.
the action figures aren't even special anymore. So,
Yes.
so did you see Book of Boba Fett?
I did not.
Okay, yeah. So last
No.
time we talked, you didn't watch that yet. So it's
Yeah.
basically actually The Mandalorian season 2.1. Like it's
Okay.
or 2.5. What do you want to look at it?
Yeah.
Because it starts out where it's Boba Fett. It's not very interesting at all. Like it's like I hated it. I
Mm.
absolutely hated it. And like halfway through the season, it just becomes Mandalorian comes back on there and it's his show. And it's
Interesting.
like
Huh.
it's literally like teeing up for season 3 of Mandalorian that I then didn't watch.
Yeah.
And now they've got a Grogu and Mandalorian movie coming out
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When does that come out?
sometime this year. I don't even know. I haven't even watched the trailer
Yeah.
because I'm like I don't know. I didn't even watch season 3. But anyway, so yeah, we're kind of basically in the same boat on Star Wars
Yeah.
at this point. All right, man. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Before you go, let people know where they can find you online, your website, your social handle. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, it's fun doing this interview. I think I mentioned because so often we see artists doing interviews or podcasts like this. It's like they're doing it upon the release of their record. So this has been really fun. I was going to say because we're talking as I'm releasing and making stuff. And so it'll be a fun time capsule for me to have and remember when I was thinking about these songs. But with that said, yes, I'm rolling out stuff right now. These songs will come out. Well, by the time you're listening to this, they'll be out. So you can find all my stuff wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple Music, all that. I will, Facebook, Instagram, I'm fairly active on those. I actually, am pretty active on, not super active, but I'm on, TikTok now. A few years ago, I started posting just some like blues piano, stuff, and sort of gained a following with people wanting to learn, tidbits of blues and jazz piano. And then that kind of caught on a little bit on, like YouTube shorts as well. So, if you're interested in the piano side of things, I'd really recommend TikTok and YouTube. But I'm on all the big social media stuff. And then I'll be on the road some this spring. I'll have I'm still in the process of confirming dates. But I'm planning on having, at least a 5 to 8 show mini tour between like March and May. So anyway, by the time this airs, I'll probably have actually already played. The first 2 shows are Milwaukee and Chicago. And then from there, we're confirming other stuff with other people, but it'll be fun and cover a decent chunk of the country. So if you're listening to this around the time it releases, check out the tour dates and see if I'm coming near you if you want to catch a show.
Excellent, excellent. And send me all your stuff, Sam, and I will put it in the description so people just hit that
Perfect,
more
yeah.
button, see all your shows, all your social handles, and we'll get you some promotion there.
Heck yeah.
All right, sounds great, man. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. That's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the bell for notifications. If you're watching this on YouTube, tap the hype button. If you're on the app, follow the podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Cole. You're the best.
All right. Yeah, dude, I totally enjoyed that.
That was so fun, man.
Is this just the way life's gonna feel for me always?